It's the dream of every cricketer, the ultimate glory. Few manage to keep their date with destiny. But for many, it's been heartbreaks and a cross to bear. The Holy Grail is here in India. I'm Rupha Ramani and Firstpost brings you the ringside view. We bring you the Cup of Dreams. Cricket World Cup coverage like never before.
The champion! It's over! He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm Rupha Ramani and you're watching Firstpost. Now, sport is one profession that is on a never-ending loop. There are no paid leaves, no sudden vacations you can take off on. You have to keep training, keep playing, and striving to keep winning. The quest to get better is one filled with hardships. And then there's the noise from the fans, the noise screaming through newspaper headlines, the noise from critics, the ones who sit in their couches and pronounce the start or the end to a career that we know has taken years of constant struggle and sweat to take them there. Every player, every athlete, every team has had to deal with the noises. But what about the noises from within? There's a lot lined up on the show today, so let's get started. The world celebrated Mental Health Day yesterday. Speed, fitness, performance, consistency rules the world of sports, and we often forget the bouts of mental health struggles that athletes confront. The mind trumps the muscle. Some big names across sporting disciplines have come to the fore to bring light to this. How grave is the situation, and is enough being done to address it? South Africa capped off a high-scoring victory in their Cricket World Cup opener and now looks forward to take on the Aussies, who suffered a clinical defeat at the hands of India. We look at some of the iconic cricket duels between these two countries at the World Cup, and we have an exclusive. A destructive middle-order batter from the South African side joins us. Tables turned in the Cup of Dreams for defending champions England yesterday. We talk about David Millan's record-shattering performance during England's match against Bangladesh, and Pakistan gives us a show like only they can. A double-billed affair, and Abdullah Shafiqul and Mohammad Rizwan take final honours. Well, that and more coming your way, but here's what's making the headlines from around the world of sports in Sports 360. In tennis, time for the Nadal fans to rejoice. Rafael Nadal will be back in action from January. I'm excited, can't wait for this one. He's set to feature at the Australian Open next year, says the tournament director. The former world number one was sidelined with injury for 5 months. Nadal now returns to the sport after his surgery earlier this year. Moving to football, Lionel Messi was seen training with Argentina ahead of their World Cup qualifier clash against Paraguay. Messi did not play the second match against Bolivia. He played Argentina's opening qualifier against Ecuador and netted a goal. Argentina, the defending champions, will take on Paraguay in their World Cup qualifier on the 12th of October. In a U-turn, UEFA has abandoned plans to allow Russia's under-17 sides in the European competition. The association announced it couldn't find a solution to allow the teams to return. The plan to reinstate the under-17 sides received fierce opposition from Ukraine and other football federations. And what's making all the headlines from the world of the Cricket World Cup? Let's start with what's happening with India, in what comes as a relief to many Indian fans and the squad. Indian batter Shubman Gill is set to join his squad in Ahmedabad ahead of their next match against Pakistan. However, there is no clarity on whether he will be fit to play the match on the 14th of October. He's still recovering from his illness. Pakistan beat Sri Lanka by 6 wickets in yesterday's match. Sri Lanka batted first and scored 344 runs for 9 wickets in their 50 overs. Kusal Mendes and Sadira Samaravikrama both scored centuries. Pakistan were able to chase that target down. It was a record chase. Mohammad Rizwan and Abdullah Shafiq scored centuries for Pakistan. This was the highest successful run chase in an ODI World Cup match. Australian all-rounder Marcus Stoinis will make a return to the squad. He has recovered from an injury. Stoinis has been declared fit to play for Australia in their match against South Africa tomorrow. Stoinis says he's excited to start playing in the World Cup. Meanwhile, the International Cricket Council, or the ICC, has fined the Bangladesh team. This was because of their slow over rate against England. Bangladesh has been fined 5% of their match fee. All right, today we're starting with a little bit of a special. The road to glory is one that is filled with thorns, in sport particularly. The constant hustle of reaching the top, outlasting opponents, making it to the record books is a pathway that is filled with bruises. But beyond the apparent guts lie hidden struggles. I have gone through a phase in my career where I felt it was the end of the world. Virat Kohli said this in 2014. I have definitely not been happy. I was definitely depressed. I cried all the time, said Serena Williams. I decided to take some time off, and the main reason was I was physically and mentally ruined. Glenn Maxwell. After every Olympics, I think I fell into a major state of depression. I didn't want to be alive anymore, said Michael Phelps. Now, it happens to the best. The worst happens to even the best. Many have taken the courage to speak about it, like gymnast Simone Biles, tennis player Naomi Osaka, footballer Gianluigi Buffon, 10-time world champion Oscar de la Hoya, cricketers Jonathan Trott, Marcus Trescothick. There are many more. You know it's difficult, but they opened up in the hopes that they send out the message to others who still suffer silently that they aren't alone in this battle. It's hard. It's a pressure cooker atmosphere, from traveling, unpacking, training, competing in tournaments, winning or losing, and then repeating that cycle all over again. There is little time to think or develop a part of the athlete that counts the most, which is the mind. 25-year-old Naomi Osaka stepped away from the court after the 2021 French Open. She cited concerns about her mental health. She herself said that she was suffering from anxiety and depression since 2018. She said, and I quote, "I felt like the break was necessary, but I kind of felt ashamed in that moment because as an athlete, you're kind of told to be strong and push through everything. But I think I learned that it's better to regroup and adjust the feelings you have in that moment, and you can come back stronger." True words that. And it's resonated with a lot of others too, who've been in similar situations. Let's talk about Simone Biles now. The US gymnast is an Olympic champion. The weight of expectations she was burdened with as one of US's biggest stars got the better of her. But she took that break and returned, as we saw, being the best version of herself. Truly an extraordinary comeback that we have so much to learn from. Back home, after crashing out of the Hockey World Cup, there was a pall of gloom in the Indian men's hockey team. The coach Graham Reid resigned and things looked bleak. Right then, not just Graham Reid, but even the captain at that time, Manpreet Singh, spoke about one significant aspect lacking: a mental conditioning coach. And in walks Paddy Upton, and you can see the results thereafter for yourself. Paddy Upton, in fact, was part of the Indian cricket setup when they won the 2011 ODI World Cup. Now, I'm not saying that this is the solution to every loss, but every defeat can make you very lonely, even in a team sport. And you just need an unbiased outlet to clear your mind. We had India's tennis player Somdev Devvarman, a world number 62 at one point, talk about how it is extremely lonely out there. He's not far away from the truth. The pandemic too played its part in alienating the players even further. In 2020, the captain of the Indian women's cricket team, Harmanpreet Kaur, insisted on the presence of a team psychologist. Many elite athletes who have been through this got help, say being close to loved ones helps more. Ben Stokes said that too. He said family and friends are massive. They know the person you truly are. The solution some athletes have resorted to is twofold. They go and get help to tide them through the trauma and the difficulties of work stress to come back stronger, like we've seen. Some unfortunately quit playing. There are so many who have quit in their 20s even, probably jaded with the rigors of international sport. How many international outfits can show the presence of a mental coach? Not just the players, but the coaches need help too. The pressure takes a toll on everyone associated with the team. The pressure of showing results, of winning. And it's not just a few instances thrown in like we've spoken about. It's larger than you think. The National Library of Medicine conducted a study in the US. This was to investigate mental disorders among Norwegian elite athletes. A group of athletes underwent technical procedures for the assessment. And it was found that at least 74% of them were at high risk of mental disorders. And mind you, this is just a test done on athletes from Norway. In elite athletes like Biles, Naomi Osaka, have experienced a moment of weakness, a moment of solitude, there are thousands others who are torn in this race to perfection. If athletes like Michael Phelps, Noah Lyles, or even Virat Kohli, who continue to excel now, still bear the brunt, imagine the thousands of athletes who are struggling to be recognized. Every year, the International Olympics Committee holds a consensus to address mental health issues in elite sports today. Data shows that 35% of elite athletes are affected by mental disorders at some point of their career. Recent instances of these stars athletes coming out and admitting about their battles are triggering a paradigm shift for the better. But how many teams or how many national, international franchises or squads really have a mental conditioning coach? We just hope that amid this stiff and brutal competition that dominates sports, the world doesn't forget what it's like to be at peace and be human. Right, let's switch our focus to cricket and the Cup of Dreams. Now, if you could chronicle heartbreaks and shattered dreams, they'd have Proteas' clashes, particularly against the Aussies, written all over it. The two sides have provided the sport with many memorable ties in World Cups particularly. It's not part of cricket folklore, reminding us that this is why we love sport. We love it for these matchups. Now, before we look ahead to the one tomorrow, let's quickly relive a few of the most iconic face-offs these two teams have given us. The very first time they met at the big stage was in 1992. South Africa, of course, ran riot there. And a very young Kepler Wessels was making his debut and with that stamped his authority to take his team over the line. Thereafter, the two have met in matches that have been recounted time and time again. 1999, that was the famous one with Australia on the mat. Herschel Gibbs had scored 100 earlier, but boy, that form surely didn't replicate on the field. He dropped a sitter to give Steve Waugh a lease of life and gave birth to a line that we will never forget. "You've just dropped the World Cup, mate." No words rang more true than that, and it would seem that South Africa carried the curse of those words across to the next time they faced each other, which was just 4 days later, in what many argue to be the greatest ODI ever played. The semi-final clash with just one run to win. The match was at a tie. The last two were at the crease, Lance Klusener and Alan Donald. And Donald is run out in the most dramatic of ways, getting Australia a seat in the final. 2007, Australia hands defeat to South Africa yet again in another semi-final. Even an inspirational A.B. de Villiers couldn't change the result. After generations of near misses, we are down to this battle here at Lucknow. And boy, does it promise to be an exciting one, because it's fresh faces, fresh setup completely. So let's build this up for you now. On one hand is Australia, coming on the back of a loss against India, a paltry target of 200 set, a dropped catch and lots to rework heading into a stadium that most of them haven't even played on. One man in their ranks can still call this home, and that's Marcus Stoinis, who has seen this stadium inside out thanks to his stint with the Lucknow Super Giants. And with the way he's training in the nets, the match tomorrow, we'll see him coming back like he's announced. He's fitter, raring to go. South Africa. They're coming on the back of some red-hot form and having beaten Australia in the recently concluded ODI series prior to the World Cup. One man in their ranks for whom this will be a homecoming of sorts is Quinton de Kock. Unlike Aussies, though, they have played at the new Ikana Stadium last year, and one batter who has happy memories from that game was Heinrich Klaasen, whose half-century came in a winning cause. And I caught up with him with this maverick middle-order bat just some days ago. Listen in. I'm joined by someone very, very special in that South African lineup. He's a maverick middle-order bat, and I'm just so happy to have him on the show. Heinrich Klaasen, thank you so much for speaking to Firstpost here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
All right, the first question I have to ask, what do you feel about being a part of the World Cup team? How stoked were you when you learnt of that, and how excited are you about this?
Yes, I'm really excited, especially a World Cup in India. We've been traveling India quite a bit over the last 2 years. So really looking forward to what the crowd brings. I know they're always jam-packed and very loud. very supportive about a lot of individual players and teams. So really looking forward to that, and obviously a 50 over World Cup. I'm very blessed to be part of the squad, and it's going to be a good 2 months.
Right, but we have to speak about that knock of 174 that you executed against Australia recently. Take us through that. What is the one thing that sort of kept you going, and sort of sum up that innings for us?
I think just patience. It was a good wicket. I remember telling Aiden that it looks like a batting first wicket. I've seen those type of wickets before at Supersport Park. It just looks so good that you actually want to bat second with the history and stuff. But playing there a lot, I said to Aiden, this is a proper bat first wicket here today. And he just laughed. And then I remember myself and Rassie being very patient. They bowl extremely well in that middle phase. Yeah, so we just batted, and I know the ball just came off the bat nicely. And then Rassie said, "Okay, now it's time. Let's go for it." And unfortunately, he went out in that over. And then Miller just brought the intensity while hitting that second ball for 6. And then I knew, okay, let's go. I've seen this before. I've played a lot of games there, and it just that feel in the air that the ball is traveling today. The wicket is extremely good, and it's just getting better and better as we bat. And then they just start losing their lengths and lines when we put the pressure on. And I just remember telling myself, like, try to hit every ball for 6 here. The ball is flying nicely. So when you commit up in the air, and it was one of those days everything just went my way, and there's innings that you dream about when you're in bed and wish to play those innings, and luckily it came off.
Right, and we enjoyed watching that as well, Hendrik, we did. But you know, there's also another interesting sort of fact about you. In the last 1 year, if we compare all batters with more than 500 runs in ODIs alone, you are the one with the highest strike rate. Does that play on your mind, or is that something that you've sort of worked on, given the role in your lineup?
I won't say it's on my mind, but I know it takes a lot of pressure off you. Then you can afford to have an extra dot or a bad over here and there. If your strike rate is up, it's different. I reckon if you're striking at 140 and there's 2 good overs from their side. But if you run about 190 odd strike rate, that 1 or 2 bad overs doesn't put you too far behind the game. But also it reminds me of the intensity that I need to bring. Sometimes you can get into a phase where, okay, they're bowling well, so let's just soak up the pressure, but you lose your intensity as well. So if you can keep an eye on almost that, then you know what strike rate you normally go at, and if that will keep your intensity up.
Right, and you do have a great strike rate, 150. I failed to mention it. But moving on, just a couple of questions to sort of get to know a little bit more about you and your teammates. Who's your favorite batting partner? We know you've batted with quite a few of them.
At this moment, it's David Miller. Our record is quite good. We know our game very well, and he's normally a guy that at the start of my career kept me very calm and guided me through the process. And it's just incredible to bat with him.
Yeah, he's quite a fun-loving character, quite an integral part of a lot of IPL setups that he's been a part of as well. But just to round this off, if I had to ask you to give one word to describe the Proteas, what would that be?
Power.
All right, that was short and sweet, but thank you so much, Hendrik. It's been a pleasure as always speaking to you, and wishing you all the very best for the entire tournament.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to England. The team is back, and they announced that in style by a thumping win over Bangladesh. The star of the show, David Malan, a lot rides on this 36-year-old when it comes to shouldering the responsibility for England with the bat. With Ben Stokes yet to come back into the 11 owing to a hip niggle, a David Malan masterclass in Dharamshala was the perfect way to get England back on track. Now, Malan scored 140 off 107 balls. That incredible knock put pressure on Bangladesh and was responsible for the mammoth 365 target that they set. Malan's knock has temporarily taken the focus away from their lower middle order and tail crumbling. Just 68 runs for the loss of 7 wickets against a quality batting attack could prove to be fatal. Now let's just look at some of the records that David Malan broke in that 140. He overtook Kohli as the highest individual score in Dharamshala. Now, Kohli, the last time he scored, which was a record till this point, was 127 in 2014 against the West Indies. Then he overtook former England batter Ian Bell for the highest individual score by a visiting player. Ian Bell had, of course, scored 113 in 2013. And he's the fastest batter to 6 ODI hundreds, overtaking Pakistan's Imam ul Haq. All right, and we really hope that that juggernaut and that momentum keeps going, especially if England needs to finish among the top 4. Now on to the next match. Pakistan versus Sri Lanka proved to be more exciting. Quite the batting contest with 4 centurions in the match. But the men we will talk about are the 2 batters who successfully recorded the highest run chase in ODI World Cup history. And for Pakistan, Mohammad Rizwan and Abdullah Shafiq reiterated just why we call Pakistan an unbelievably mercurial side. One batter playing in only his 9th List A match ever played plays a mature knock in a historic run chase. I'm talking, of course, of Abdullah Shafiq. The other, more seasoned player, gives him company at the other end and suffers cramps to slow down the match. Later also sheepishly admits post-match that sometimes it is real and sometimes it's just a little acting. That's Pakistan cricket. Incredulously unbelievable and stunningly gifted at the same time. That's why you can never take them for granted. And you'll make a huge mistake if you wrote them off completely. Abdullah Shafiq was playing his first World Cup innings, the man who has only opened in Test cricket and has just 100 in any form of white ball cricket, the one who came into the 11 replacing a seasoned ODI cricketer, Fakhar Zaman, played the knock of his career. He kick-started the chase before, of course, the dramatic, ever so exciting, talented Rizwan joined him. Mohammad Rizwan was the imp to the very sane Shafiq. He danced down the track when he could, played the lofty shots, rotated the strike very well, even after pretending to cramp through it all. A class act, quite literally. And with this win, Pakistan will and truly have their campaign on track. All right, that brings us to, of course, the last serve. It's a parting shot that we leave you with before we sort of end this episode. Now, as athletes across the world are gearing up for Olympics next year, BMX freestyle athletes rode, spun their bikes, lunged midair, and performed some mind-blowing stunts, but just not anywhere ordinary. Take a look.
Okay.
5 minutes left for the jump distance.
There's that one moment where I think your eyes sort of would have shifted away from the Eiffel Tower onto something else more dramatic. But that's all we have time for here on the show. Thank you so much for joining us here on another episode of Firstpost. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we always do, bringing it to you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.